Doug, episode 6.
Woo!
And woo, yeah, we're getting the hang of it. And today we got really special video, I think, because we're going to talk about the REA auction. But for the first time ever, I'm going to be showing off a win from an REA auction. My first time bidding, so I've kind of broken through into the big boys. It's no longer just bidding in eBay auctions. Now I won't say I won heritage auctions before, so I have used heritage, but I've only won heritage comic books. Never won a baseball card in a heritage auction. So my first real big auction house for a sports card.
Yep.
So we
You
can
did good
show
for
off.
your virgin auction.
Yeah, I was kind of value shopping, and we'll go through the lots I won, and we'll go review sort of the auction itself. But I feel like we, both of us, I think Doug, you got a really nice one too. So before we start, though, I do have a cool card that just came in. Um, Ever since I was a kid, I've been building a 61 Pirates team set. I've been kind of obsessed with this 61 Pirates team. Like, won the World Series in 1960, and so as a kid, I read one of those baseball card magazines, and it told me, "Hey, a good way to collect vintage is to collect your favorite team from the year they won the series." So that should have meant I collected the 60 Pirates. But when I started as a kid looking at the 60 Pirates, they had the stats of the 59 team, and they won the World Series, but the World Series cards were all in the 61.
Mm-hmm.
So in the MVP card and all the cool cards, in my opinion, were in 61, and it kind of celebrated the 60 team. So I put together the 61 Pirate team set because I had all those special cards. And so, but since then, I've gotten more advanced. But there was one card in that set or a player that was missing from the 61 Pirate team set. It was Wilmer Mizell. And so I talked to a dealer and I said, "Hey, is there any 61 Mizell cards? I can't find him." And they said, "Oh man, there is no Topps card of him, but there is a Cons card, there is a Post card." And so I bought a Cons card when I was in high school, a Wilmer Mizell, a raw one, to put in my Pirate team set, but it was oversized. So then I got the Post card, so I could put him in my sleeve because I had one of those 30 pocket sheets that I could put on my wall of all my Pirate my team set, which I still have, by the way. I still have that 30 pocket or 30 slot team set I could hang up on my wall. I still have that.
Wow.
So so anyway, long story is, I've known about the con set for a long time, and I've started to really focus on putting that set together, and I'm down to 2 cards. So I need the Clemente and the Bob Friend. And so I need 2 cards for my set, and I picked up just recently from Greg Morris the Clemente raw, and yay,
Nice job.
down to 2 cards. And this is on my list of cards to pick up for the year. Even though it didn't make my top 10, this is definitely on the list. And it's got a beautiful white back. It's hard to see, but it's got a beautiful white back. And a lot of times you'll see staining on these cards. So it's very clean. We measured it, me and Doug kind of, before the show, we kind of measured it a little bit compared to some other cards I have of Cons cards. I've got the 61 Maz right here, and it measures the same. So I think it's going to grade. So I'll be shipping that card off to SGC, probably with some other cards I've won recently, and let's give you guys an update when that card comes back.
Yep.
So Doug, like besides REA, have you picked up any other things?
Not a whole lot. Picked up an interesting card for my book collection for this book right here, Glory of the Times. You know how my fascination with Glory of the Times.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been trying to put together some players from different sets, kind of knock out two birds with one stone by picking up a player and maybe a type set card that didn't already have. So I was able to pick up a turkey red card of one of the
Wow.
players from the book. The nice art card, and so I found a gorgeous um, copy, and it has a pinhole at the top. But the rest of the card is absolutely gorgeous. I was
The
really happy to pick that up.
Yeah, I think turkey T3s are just so such amazing cards. Like hopefully this year I pick up. Um, I gotta look. I think I may have all the pirates from the T3 set.
Oh
I need to go
wow!
back and look. I've got the Howie Kamenetz. I've got the Josh Gibson or George Gibson. Sorry. I've got the Fred Clark, and I'm trying to think who else is in that set. Tommy Leach. I think I have him. And I think Philip or whatever his name. I think I may need him. So I know I have 4 or 5 pirates from the T3 set.
And that would be
Um,
nice to complete.
so I might be able to actually. That might be a goal for me is to complete my T3 pirate set at
Yeah,
some point this year. I hadn't really thought about it because T3s are so hard to get. I mean, they don't pop up that often, and but it'd be kind of cool to finish that set for me. So
that would be.
yeah, congrats. And I think it's gonna be cool. Like, have you ever thought about putting together like a Glory Other Times like set and kind of framing it?
Uh, the problem is that some of the cards, yeah, I would consider that. But the only thing is that I would want it all from like the same year, and the Glory of the Times um, is about a 30-year period.
Hmm.
So it'd be hard to find the right combination of cards that would fit that timeline,
Yeah. Well, I
and
think it's still
keep it all the same card. I think
yeah.
that'd be tough.
Well, I mean, I think it'd be interesting to see how far you could get with
Yeah,
the same set for
yeah.
sure.
I know
So
the M116. I'm sorry, the M101 set probably has 75% of Glory Other Times players in
mm,
it. So that would be a neat challenge.
yeah, that's really cool. That would be really fun. And do you know anyone that has put together kind of like all the players from that set or
No,
that book?
no, not that I'm aware of. Uh, Hit us up in the comments if you have. I would love to talk to you.
So, well, here's my box from REA. I haven't opened it yet, so I don't know what's in here. So I'm going to open it for the first time here live with Doug because Doug kind of kind of convinced me to sign up and I had a blast actually on REA's auction. Just kind of just taking part. And I will say, Doug. So I'll go through my experience before I show the cards, just because this is my first experience with REA.
Yeah, I was going to
Um,
ask you about this because I know some of the sites can drag on and on and on some of the auctions, and
yeah.
that's the way I like REA. I think REA does it properly.
Well, I'll do just a direct comparison because I did sign up for because of cards they had was for the love of the game, love of the game auction house. I signed up for because there was one specific card I was going after, and I didn't like it. It didn't win, but it also like drug off until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah, it's
and
it's
it
it's
was
a
just
little crazy.
insane.
Yeah,
I just felt like I just didn't have fun in that whole. I did not have fun at all with their auction format.
right.
It felt like there was no. I didn't feel like I could ever win a card in that auction. Like like nothing seemed possible. Where REA, it seemed like the lots closed quickly if there wasn't activity at these intervals. They just closed the lot. They didn't like where I think some auction houses, if there's one bid in the entire auction stays open or something like that.
Yes. Yep. During extended bidding, the extending bidding rules, you have to really be careful and read the regulations. I think REA is only 15 is the 15-minute rule.
Gives you fair warning, but like, hey, like it's going to close if no one bids on it. So
Yeah.
like, but if you're bidding on other lots and you want to circle back 3 hours later to bid on something that you've already been outbid on, it seems like REA kind of forces you to bid earlier. Like either choose to bid now or you may lose that lot. And it
Yeah.
does, I think, make it easier to win something in their auction.
Yeah, I agree.
So I had a great time, and I won some really weird. I'd say weird. I mean, to some folks, this stuff might not be weird. For me, it's stuff that I don't normally collect. But there was some really cool stuff because you know it was fun because I was able to also research some of the lots I won, and that was just fun to go and review some of the really fun lots. So I'll go through the most non-weird card I won. You know, and two of them I guess are a little bit more common. So first up here is a 34 batter up Lloyd Wayner SGC4.
Well, that'll fit in your pirate collection nice.
So, and these obviously have the blank back, so there's nothing really going on the back. But I was a little shocked. I mean, this card was. Let me look at my invoice here. Um, I was kind of expecting it to go over at least over $100, and it was I think 70 something dollars. With all the premium and everything, but yeah, like it was interesting to me that it didn't go for as much as I thought it would.
Yeah, that's a nice
Um,
pickup.
so, but I don't have this card, and I don't have a lot of Lloyd Wayner cards. I actually have a lot more Paul Wayner.
Oh,
I
yeah.
do Lloyd, and I know like a lot of people have stated that he's like one of the worst Hall of Famers in the Hall of Fame. Is Lloyd Wayner.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you really read about him, and I don't think he was really that bad comparatively. He seemed like a guy that had a lot of like a lot more ability than he's given credit for from a Hall of Fame perspective. But his from a value perspective, Paul Wayner sells for a heck of a lot more than Lloyd
Oh,
Wayner does.
definitely. Definitely.
And these have tint, so this is like I guess the I don't know what you call that, red or pink tint.
Yeah.
And I know there's like a blue tint and a green tint, I think.
Right.
So,
It's a nice looking card.
it is, and I think when you look at it, that 4, and even if you look at it a little closer, I mean, I believe it's looking at it as it prints in really well. Like I don't see any like big creases or ugly marks on it, so pretty
Yeah.
happy with that card.
You did well.
All right. Well, first time around, and the other more common, actually not common, but just more standard card I picked up was, and again, going back to my love for 61s. So now I may have a new team set to put together is 61 Bazooka, Bill Mazeroski.
Nice.
So I really love that card. It's an SGC 7. And again, I've got an obsession with 61 pirate cards. So this is my first 61 bazooka of anyone. So I don't have any other bazookas. Bazookas have been kind of a blind spot for my collection. I have almost the entire 61 post pirate team set as well. So this could be another team set for me to build now that I've got the Maz.
As soon as I seen that in the auction, I knew that was going to be yours.
Well, and it went at it. It didn't go that as high as I thought it was going to go, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and then the last card I picked up, or not really a card, a lot. So this is a lot of card or I guess photos and just interesting memorabilia from a a team um, that featured and so this is more it's Native American adjacent. Like this is some postcards from a team from the 1920s. This is the Nebraska Indians postcards. Um, and I did some research on them. And what I found was this is like one of the first traveling Native American semi-pro teams. Like, so the way this happened was, in baseball back in the 20s, it appears like there was a lot of teams that were just barnstorming teams. They were going around the country and making money. A lot of them were like players that were college players, and they put together a team and they go play, all around the country. And you had a lot of, I think the House of David as a team that is probably more famous for
Right.
this. But the shtick here was these were all Native Americans. And when you look at the photos, in fact, I'll show you the first one here. Obviously, you can kind of see here in the photo, they all are wearing traditional headdresses. And again, this is a shtick as well. Like this isn't just like, you know, something they're doing just because it's cultural. They're trying to kind of get people to go to the game. So they want to play up the Native American, you know, um, shtick to kind of like have people come out and look at them and kind of like they're at the time you had the traveling western shows, and so like this is pre TV, like this is entertainment for the people, and so they would play the local team and they would play up the Native American aspect to get people curious to come out and watch the game. And what I learned is like there was a couple players that actually made the majors from this team. There was also non-Native Americans that played for this team, so it was a really interesting, um, lesson for me. And again, this is a postcard, so you can see it on the back. It's a postcard, um, and then there's the front, and then the other photos. So there's three photos here. So this photo is, I think it's not really a postcard. It's an actual um, it may be Doug. It's actually it's a glued on photo. This is I think an original photo of the team here. Yeah, it's hard. There you go.
Oh wow.
See how it's glued in there? So it's
Yeah.
actually, yeah, like that. That's I think a real photo. It's like an original photo of the team. It's not. You can feel it. It's
Got a little
it,
gloss to it.
it's got gloss to it. Yeah,
All right.
you can see the glossy on it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And I know it's a little faded, but you can see the whole team, the manager there,
That
um,
looks like a very early one too.
and you can see their Nebraska Indians jerseys, um, and their catchphrase was "Only ones on Earth." That was kind of like, they would build themselves as the only Native American baseball team on Earth. That was their catchphrase. So,
Right.
um, only ones on Earth, and I think it's just a really cool relic of the 1920s and kind of the startup of these kind of barnstorming teams. And again, the more famous one is House of David, the Jewish team that was traveling around, of which a lot of major leaguers played on the House of David. I think
Sure.
Grover Alexander played on House of
Yes.
David.
Yes.
So I mean that it was very common to see major leaguers. And then here is a more kind of I think this is another yeah, it's a postcard, but this is a colorized postcard of the owner and manager of the team. Um, and again, they're saying that the team started in 1897. So by the 1920s, this team had been around for almost 30 years. Um, and Guy Green was the owner and manager of the team. He started it. So, but here is a postcard of three other players,
Oh
and
wow.
so yeah, like it's really cool. It's really cool looking.
They went
The
all out
one
for
thing,
that picture.
the one thing about this card, so this person in the middle, right? So he's not a Native American. They call him the clown. And so during the game, he was like would goof around and play with the crowd and he was like a ball boy or a manager for the team. So he actually didn't even I don't know if he played.
Yeah.
Um, but he would run around the stadium and do goofy stuff and entertain the crowd. And so he was like the clown, and then you have two of the actual players here in their traditional dress. Um, so that was really cool. Again, this photo has been published in a few papers, and this is kind of a very classic look at people from this team. And this team photo has been published. This one and this one have all been published in multiple magazines and papers. The other thing I found out was, um, like they would do the shtick where they would dress one of their best players as the clown, and then they would tell the other team like like a story like, hey, our our mascot or whatever wants to pitch in a game, and his mom's sick and she wants to come see him play, and so that and they would say, sure, you can pitch this guy, he probably isn't any good, and then they would hide their best player as the clown, and he would go out and pitch, and then he would like shut him out, and then they would and the crowd didn't know it was like their best player, and they would all get really like worked up over seeing this, guy who's never pitched before, pitch a, a game, and then they would do stuff like that. So like,
Yeah.
if you think about it, it was a very carny, very, um, very interesting time for baseball, but it was just cool for me because I do collect a lot of Native American players and cards, to get something like that in that auction. And I thought it went pretty reasonable. It was a three lot, like, two postcards and a photo. And I think the final, I can go back into what the final lot price was, but I think it was around 180, something like that,
Yeah.
for that lot. So um, anyway, I mean, I felt like um, it was reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it was $102
Oh
for
wow.
that lot.
Those
So
postcards remind me, talking about the barnstorming teams and whatnot during that era. The Bloomer
yeah.
Girls, the famous Bloomer Girls teams.
Oh, okay.
Actually, Joe Wood, that's how he got discovered. Um, he was on a Bloomer Girls were playing the Nest City, which is the minor league team that he had played for. And they asked him, hey, would you like to play for our team
Hmm.
for a short period of time and we'll pay you so much money? Well, it was so much more money than what he was making. So he was playing for the Bloomer Girls. And while the Bloomer Girls were playing another minor league team, that's when he got discovered by Boston.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
Wow.
they would usually have an all women's team, and then they'd have two or three guys dressed up as women,
Hmm.
and kind of the corny, that was their stick.
Yeah, and I think that's the
Um,
thing is they all had a shtick.
Yeah,
Um, so I just thought when I read through some of the archives about the team, and again I think his name was either Bob Johnson, or they had one player that was truly a great player and ended up pitching in the majors. So it's like, to your point, like these teams a lot of times they had great players. I mean, there was I don't think baseball had a real big minor league organization in that time period where
yeah,
players could really work their way up to the majors. So like there probably was a lot of good players that started out playing in these kind of like they're, I guess you call them semi-pro, but it was really more like, like it was more entertainment. Like it was kind of like today, like the Savannah Bananas, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like the Harlem Globetrotters. Like they go around and play teams, but it's more about fun. Like they don't care if they win or not.
Right.
You
And
know, they
they would play different city teams.
Yeah, exactly.
The city boys that wanted to play.
Yeah, and so like each team, and back then, city baseball was a big deal. I mean, they every
Sure.
team every town had a team, and they played other surrounding towns, and it was a big deal. And so this team comes in, these Native American guys come in, like, we're gonna beat up on your team, and your team sucks, and all that stuff, and they put it like that's what they do. They'd advertise in the paper, we're gonna come into your town, we're gonna beat you guys up, and we're gonna scalp
Yeah.
you and all that stuff, and,
Yeah.
and that's what they would say in the paper.
Rile the whole community up so that they would show up.
Yeah, and then the whole community come out, and then
Yeah.
and to watch that game, and so yeah, like I guess in the auction, this is a cabinet card cabinet photo, which makes sense. You can see it's kind of
Right.
glued in onto the auction description for this was also very interesting. That it was wrong. In the auction description, it says these are the Newark, New Jersey Indians, and it's not. These are the Nebraska Indians. So I thought it was interesting that they had the wrong description for the lot.
Somebody did the research bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's one of the things with REA. You expect them to have, that kind of thing. I'm not sure it did much to the lot. I think
Right.
this is obviously a lot of photos that only a few people were going to be interested anyway, because collecting Native American baseball history is probably going to be a niche within a niche of that,
Definitely.
subset of collectors. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and go through the RA auction real quick. I know there was some lots. Oh, I'm sorry, Doug. I never saw the card you want. You want to show off yours, or want to just look at it on screen here? Because I know sometimes
Yeah.
with Harvard glare and everything, I can just pull up the card you want on here.
Okay. Here,
Because it was a T207, correct?
Correct.
All right, so let's look at the lot that
I don't know the lot
won.
number, but I know that. Oh, here we are.
So you won the
Yerkes.
now that I'm looking at T207s, I like them a lot better. Here we go. And there was a Chief Bender. I have two Chief Benders T207, by the way.
There it is, right there.
There it is, Stanley Yerkes. All right. So this is what Mr. Doug won. And so you've received it, correct?
I do. I have it right here. I don't think it's going to show up real good, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very pleased with it because, like I said, my goal this year is to try to work real hard on putting this team set together. And I like that. Doesn't have to be all fives, and obviously it will not be, but as long as I can get the look of a 3 to 5 range and to have a nice eye appeal, that's what I'm striving for.
Now, how many players do you have?
I only have 4.
Okay.
So 4 out of 18.
Wow, 18. Because we were talking about my 61 con set, and there's 16 cons Pirates, but there's 18 T207 Red Sox. That's a lot.
Yeah, and there's some pricey ones. Actually, I was bidding on another card in this auction. It's the
which one?
Ed Seacott.
Oh yeah, the Black Sox guy, right?
Yes,
He was a catcher, right?
It's up towards the cut. No, he was a really dominant pitcher.
Okay, I'm trying to think because there was what player that they are pretty sure wasn't part of this, that because Chicon, like, he actually was a ringleader for the Black Sox, right?
Who's that?
Ed Chicon
was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was the ones that actually was really pro, like throw the game. Like he, because didn't like they screw him over on like a bonus or something.
I'm
Like,
not sure if it was Cecott or not. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
uh, I'm just trying to remember the movie. Like in the movie, remember like he won. They
Right.
pulled him from a game early, so he couldn't get a bonus, and then he got really mad
It might have,
because the
yeah,
owner was
it
really
might have
cheap.
been. Yeah, it might have been Cecott.
But no, like that. Because I'm trying to think what player was. I mean, I know they were saying that Jackson took the money but didn't actually play bad.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he averaged like 380 for the series.
but there was another player that I thought got that actually didn't do anything, but he still got banned. But I'm trying to
Buck
think,
Weaver, I
like the
think it's
catcher or one of the players that they really kind of screwed over. But
right,
I think yeah, still bad. Like
right,
throwing the World Series is still bad. I mean, no matter how you slice it, that's probably
yeah,
not the right way of handling what they did. But back then, I mean, they didn't make hardly any money.
right. Yeah,
So that card was actually very well centered.
yes, I would have loved to have had that card, but someone liked it a little bit more than I did.
Yeah, it went for $1,000.
Yeah, I think the last Cecott sold for around 750, $800 in that type of condition, and it was just earlier last year. So I think I had bid up to around 900, and then I bailed out.
Well, this is a card that we both discussed,
Yes.
the 68 3D, and from we had like we were talking about like where was telling you like an SGC what two or three just sold for like $19,000.
Right. I think it was a
Like
two.
yeah, so like and then this one sells for 22, but it has that stamp on the back, which makes it more of a and so say it's more of a prototype. Like it definitely gives the card more character to have this stamp right here on the back.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that makes it very cool. Um,
Yeah. We had both said in the last episode when we were looking at this card that we thought this one would bring more than the SGC2.
yeah, and it did, and I think you know, but also like just the recent sales of the 68 3Ds. Like I do feel a little bit more vindicated about what I did when I traded to get mine.
Yeah.
Because I think the value we put on mine was around 60 grand, 50 to 60 grand, and I do feel like now that that little slug of newfound cards has kind of gone into collections, you're going to see like very few of those cards popping up.
Right.
It's still pretty rare.
Yeah.
And I do feel like these sales are very strong on these threes and twos and ones that recently sold. So I think the card is still a grail for a lot of collectors still. So I don't
Well,
feel like this.
this is such a popular card. There's so many Clemente fans and Clemente
Mhm.
collectors. This is a entry level card. I mean, not everybody can work out a deal or have the cash to get a 7, 8, 9 grade.
Right.
And so this is actually um, allows some people to get in on this.
Well, and I think that's the thing is like even now, if you want to get a one or two, you're gonna be paying five figures.
Right. Yep.
So it's a and I think that's the thing is like it's a premier card. It's
Yes.
not it's hard to get. It's like any 52 mana like this 52 mana altered brought $30,000. You're not
Crazy.
going to get a mantle
Yeah.
of any kind of eye appeal for very little for under 20 to $30,000.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that what did it say? This is let's see why. Let's see. So it says authentic by PSA due to exposure to a non-water substance, which has left the reverse display uneven. So
The
that's interesting.
background.
What do you think about that?
I think they have the technology now to determine that something has been chemically enhanced, cleaned. I
Do you
mean, they
think they were
label.
trying to remove a stain and they
Well, I
they
mean,
caught him?
they're decertifying some cards from Kurt's Card Care now, and
Yeah.
they made a point to do that.
Well, I mean that language, non-water substance,
Yeah,
is interesting. Like
yeah,
that's a
definitely.
very, very clear indication that they think this card's been chemically treated.
So why would they not? That just begs me to ask, why would they not? Why would they grade it? Why, I don't know.
Well, I think that I mean they gave it the authentic, but or altered, right? I think was the great altered or authentic.
Yeah,
Authentic altered.
there you go.
And I
Yeah,
think that's a grade that everyone hates,
yeah, and that's probably appropriate.
you know.
I
But
think if it didn't originally get caught, and it got a number grade, I think they would just go back and decertify it.
yeah. Um, I think also, hopefully, this persuades people maybe not to try to alter cards in the future because do you really need to alter some of these cards? With meaning this is that the low end, high eye appeal subset of vintage cards is doing really well.
Yeah,
Like you don't need to try to make that PSA 2 into a PSA 5. If the eye appeal is really nice, it might sell very well, closer to the 4 grade by just the eye appeal alone. So to me, I if I had a high eye appeal card with a stain on the back, I think today I would just keep the stain and
yeah,
not
just leave it
try to
alone.
alter it.
Yeah,
A lot of these guys, and I know the old school guys. I'm telling you, the old school dealers, you know, that altering was like second nature to them. Like I've talked to a lot of them, and it's just like that's what they did. Like they took a card that had, I'd say a pencil mark, right? And
yeah,
they would power erase it and be like, oh, now it's going to grade a lot higher. Now, if they that that power erasing, you know, and that card gets altered, would you have rather kept it, PSA 3 mark MK versus authentic altered? I
right. Yeah, I
I
think
think
we would much rather have the 3 MK.
yeah,
Yeah,
especially if it had great eye appeal. I
yeah.
just feel like maybe this will turn a little bit of that tide around. Um, so some other lots. I mean, I think for me when I was looking here, I know when I was looking at because again I'm trying to um, think about putting together a Grover Alexander collection. The This lot here, this retired card,
Yeah,
um, I love that card. I
I
almost bid on it.
yeah, yep. Those have really, really started to come up in price now. The Retroado is hot right now,
It went for
especially in
540.
this condition.
Well, this one actually, the back really has no damage. I mean, a lot
Yeah,
of these have really bad back damage, and this one's
right.
pretty clean.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's the thing that you know, I thought it was cool. I really thought this card was cool. Um, Now
And Leslie
going
Grove
to
is so underrated Hall of Famer. I mean, such a
yeah,
fabulous pitcher.
um, and then going to these sorry, like the E121s.
Yeah.
Um, so you had the authentic bring 630 and the 4 bring 930. So not being really that familiar with these, Doug, like why did the 1922, is it just rare card? Because it feels weird to me to see it bring 630 where a 4 from
Okay.
brought.
So you have the E121 set that's 1921, and
Yeah.
it's a set of 80 cards,
Yeah.
and that's what it says on the back. The 1922 E121 is a card set of 120, and they didn't make as many of the E121s or E122s in
Okay.
1922. So
So it's just a rare set,
yes,
like harder to find. Okay.
correct.
That just was interesting to me that, that authentic, which I think it had good eye appeal.
It does, yeah. Does it say?
Um,
No, it doesn't. It doesn't say anything, does it? And that's an old
no,
school order.
no. I'm assuming that maybe it was glued in. The back does have quite a bit
It
of
kind of
staining.
kind of does look like it there on the right side,
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah,
yeah, and it could be missing some paper.
yeah.
Um, just looking at that back, but you
I
know,
I would love to own a copy like that because the front is gorgeous.
yeah,
The
no, and it's got
centering's
great
not bad.
registration.
Yeah, yeah. The centering's not
Really
bad.
nice registration.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I felt like from that side of it. Was there other lots you wanted to kind of review, Doug, that you were looking at?
No, not really. I just know that I there was a T207 church speaker in that. Uh,
Yes.
I lost track of that card. I didn't find out what it ended up going for, but I wasn't going to bid real hard on it because that top left corner just
Yeah.
bothered me too much. The
Yeah. I
center, the
figured that
center
would
was
not.
great. Yeah, but
Well,
I
I
had
figured
lost
that
track
would
of that card. What did it end up going for?
1320.
1320. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably about right for that card.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Yeah. It's weird to me to see like cards like that. With that corner damage. You know, even get a two. Honestly.
Yeah,
Um. But I get it. Maybe the rest of the card is really nice, but you know, that's more than missing paper. That's you're missing part of the card.
yeah. It's almost like it's clipped.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like a two is a little high in my opinion for that card.
Yeah.
Honestly, like that looks like a want to me. I mean,
The
even
the
with a
eye
good,
appeal is definitely there, other than that top left corner.
yeah. No, but it's just like it's not really around a corner. It's missing corner.
Yes.
It's missing a lot, missing part of the card.
Yeah.
But again, that's just how I look at that card, going like a two seems odd, but the rest of the card's very nice, so I can see that why
Yeah.
maybe got that a little bit benefit of the doubt.
Let's look at the back of that card, because I'm
Yeah,
wondering if it wasn't originally maybe in an album,
it
where they had
was.
in by
You
the
can see
corner.
it. Yeah, you see that
Yeah.
pattern there.
Yeah.
It's definitely paste. It's definitely paste.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
maybe they clipped the corner,
It's
putting it
definitely
into.
high on my list, but this one just wasn't the right one.
No, I don't think you would have. Even if that corner wasn't damaged, you probably wouldn't like that paste on the back either.
Well, I could live with that if the front was nice.
Yeah, yeah, this one was rough. I mean, I think having multiple condition issues, even on a two,
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. It was a little bit rough, and I don't know if 1320 is a good price or not, but it seemed like a pretty strong price to pay for a card. You know, um, with that kind of a condition issue, but it's hard to say. So there was a Retire Auto Trish speaker, and look at that photo they used. They were not trying to pull the most flattering of photos. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's not the
That
photo I would have wanted on my card.
No,
Was
I
Trish
would
speaker.
want a nice young picture of myself.
Yeah, that's a really rough photo of
Wow,
Trish
yeah.
speaker. Um, yeah. So, overall for me, it's great to see the auction, to be a part of it. Um, and I feel like, coming up, what auctions are coming up, um, that you're kind of paying attention to,
Well, I know
Doug?
that in mid-February, there are Heritage and REA, and then I
Hmm.
think this month there's also a Sterling auction,
Hmm.
um, and then I believe there's a Collector Connection auction. So
Well,
keep
I will
my eye.
be paying, yeah, I'll be paying attention to the next REA auction. Um, for me, what's my fun time is around March. When we get our company bonuses, things like that. And I
Yeah,
think, this year I'm going to be more reserved, I think, and wait closer to the national to, you know, um, try to put together some cards for that to do some deals. Probably do more grading between now and then. I've got the Calenti now. I got to send in. I
yeah,
feel like, I've got a few really nice raw cards that I need to get graded, um, that have been sitting on my desk for too long. But yeah, I like the fact that, like for example, if I want to finish my con set, maybe get a few more 61 bazookas. It's fun to start maybe a new set. Now, one of the players I'm thinking about, collecting a little bit. I talked about Grover Alexander, which the only problem with Grover Alexander for me is all his cards are hard to find. I mean, he's in a lot of sets that are just tough.
right.
He doesn't have like a common card. Like Chief Bender is in the T206 set. I can find a lot of those cards all the time.
Yeah.
Grover Alexander doesn't.
He's in
One of the
that
players
time period where there's only a select amount of sets.
Yeah,
So
no, Joe Wood is kind of in a similar
exactly. Yep.
predicament.
Yep. I agree.
Um, so one of the players I was looking at, because if you look at Grover Alexander's overall WAR, he's top 10 in overall WAR for pitchers ever in
Yeah.
baseball. And I don't think people really think of him as a top 10 overall pitcher. The player, the actual, um, one of the players that actually surprised me to be up there for top 10 overall was Eddie Collins.
Yeah.
Um, and it shocks me how little his cards go
I
for a
agree.
guy that top 10 WAR of all time.
Well, if you look at all the teams that he was on,
Hmm.
uh, they were all star-studded teams.
Hmm.
So he kind of got overlooked. He had a long career,
Hmm.
long productive career. I mean, put up some fabulous numbers, but
Well, and
he never got the limelight that he should have.
he's one of the few players to ever play 12 years for two different teams.
Yeah,
Because he was a Philadelphia A and what was it, a White Sox?
White Sox. Yeah, yeah,
And he was on the Black Sox team, I believe.
correct.
So if you read his career, he literally like crosses over, like, he's playing with for the Philadelphia team. I'm trying to think, like, um they had some players from Philadelphia that were amazing, like back in the day. So
Rube
he's on,
Waddell.
yeah.
Yeah,
But he was like playing with, just like he played with almost like, he played with Joe Jackson. He played with, he was on the Black Sox team. He, like all these World Series games. He's like involved in, like, he's like the Forrest Gump of like pre-war baseball. Like
yeah,
he's involved in everything. If you
yeah.
read his career, it's really amazing. But like he's top 10 overall. Like he's in the top 10 overall of WAR. Like, and he's a guy that no one ever talks about.
Right.
Him and Kid Nichols, like, no one ever really talks about those guys being like a top 10 all time player. And but Colin, like, and the thing that's weird to me is like he's got a Gaudy card.
Yes.
It's just
He played a
bizarre.
long span. And he's got cards in every set from 1909 to 1930. Well, 33.
Yeah, it's insane. Like he's in every major hobby set.
Yeah.
He literally, I mean, he literally he's the Forrest Gump of baseball players. He's in every major set from the pre-war. He played in all these great games. Won a lot of like he was in multiple World Series. It's just like the guy was, like should have been. I mean, to me, it's like it's just weird that he's like Tris Speaker is worth a lot more than Eddie Collins is
Yes.
from a value perspective.
And
And if
and
you
Trick
look at
Picker's been overlooked somewhat in the
yeah,
hobby.
but when you compare him to like but then you look at Eddie Collins' prices, you're like, well, not worth a whole lot comparatively,
Yeah.
to what his overall career turned out to be. So he reminded me a lot of like if him and Grover Alexander had similar careers in terms of being one of the all-time greats, but no one really thinks about him today as being these kind of awesome all-time greats. It's
Yeah.
um, like for example, like Nolan Ryan is like very mid-tier in terms of all-time WAR. But
Right.
like you would say, most people would say today, like, well, Nolan Ryan was an all-time great. Well, I mean, Grover Alexander was like, I think had 2 or 3 times his WAR,
Isn't that crazy?
for his career. Like, well, yeah. And I think they also like the idea, like, well, that was back then and all that stuff. It's like, well, I mean, the thing with WAR, it's adjusting for a lot of that. So like, that's a stat that does
That
adjust.
was the whole purpose of that system, is to
Yeah,
adjust from, different eras.
right. And ballparks and all that stuff. You know, because if you really go through a lot of players, like they talk about, Mazeroski would have hit like another 120 home runs if he played outside the polo grounds
Yeah.
for his whole career. And you think about someone like Ralph Kiner, who led the league in home runs like what 7 or 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
He played half his games in probably one or not the polo grounds, the what was it, Forbes Field,
Forbes,
one of the
yeah.
biggest stadiums in all of baseball. Like
Right.
they estimate he could have hit another 100+ home runs too if he'd have played in like Wrigley Stadium.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you adjust for that, it's like, well, those guys are a lot better than it showed. It's just they played in a very pitcher friendly ballpark, and
Yeah.
that does get adjusted when they look at WARs and other stats. And I think that makes looking at these players a lot more fun. Just but if you just look at the counting stats, it's like, oh well, this guy was not as good as that guy. Well, you got to look at the bigger picture. So, but he was just like stuck out to me as like such a good player, had such an amazing career and all these great stats, and the prices are just really low for a guy like that. So he intrigued me.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah,
So
he's not a pre-war hobby, relevant player. I mean, he's
mhm.
just when you ask people, um, name the top 10 pre-war players, Eddie Collins should be in there.
Right.
But you never
Mhm.
hear it. You never
No,
hear it.
no, it's same way for I think for Alexander on pitching. I think maybe he would get in there more often than Collins,
Yeah.
with pre-war, but um, I think only because honestly, people, all if you're a baseball card collector, you look at prices, and we know that like Grover Alexander has the 14 Cracker Jack, which sells for a lot of money. You
Yeah.
know, I don't think Eddie Collins has too many cards that you could say like, go for crazy money, over other cards in the same set.
Yeah.
He doesn't sell for more than Ty Cobb or, like he's always the, you know, mid tier in terms of like probably some of the prices
Yeah.
in those sets. So it's like he doesn't stand out like from a value perspective as someone who is top tier, type of player. It's just it's just interesting how and again he might be completely boring as a player, in terms of like he doesn't have a great story to tell
Yeah.
compared to some other players, but
Well,
I feel like it's
unfortunately, um, to be hobby relevant, you either need to have a great backstory, an interesting name, something
mhm.
you're remembered by other than your play on the field.
Yeah, and he definitely falls into that category of he didn't hit a lot of home runs, so that automatically makes him not a Babe Ruth type guy. he didn't like spike people and was a mean guy like Ty Cobb. So it's like you go through there and say like, oh well, there's a lot of reasons why this guy isn't as popular, but I think it's just one of those things that, like, you can look through the Hall of Fame list and especially in pre-war and find some players that were amazing players that don't sell for a lot. And I think it does create opportunity if you wanted to get into pre-war player collecting and finding players out there that don't have tons of value, like like you and Joe Wood. In fact, the thing that's funny is I was reading an article on the most underrated pre-war players that should be in the Hall of Fame, and Joe Wood, you know, comes up in a lot of those articles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for the Pirates, they have a player, George Gibson, that comes up a lot too. Their catcher as being someone who might want to be in the, should be in the Hall of Fame because of his position, being a catcher in that time period. Um, so it's interesting to me, like when you start looking at who those players are, because I was looking at WAR recently for a video I was working on, like because Dave Parker just got in the Hall of Fame, right?
Right.
And I was looking at my Pirate collection and what Dave Parker cards I have, and I try to like figure out how the Pirate players all rank in terms of career WAR, and I was looking at like WAR per 162 games, to try to kind of average it out, because total WAR sometimes is tough because they have different playing career links. But if you do WAR per 162 games, it gives you an idea.
Right. Averages
And
out.
averages out. And it's really funny that him and Bill Mazeroski have almost the exact same WAR per 162 games.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people would be like, well, like Parker was a much better player than Maz. I'm like, it's not. He wasn't comparatively.
Yeah.
So it's just like if Maz is in the Hall of Fame, and Parker's in the Hall of Fame, they're very comparable from a WAR perspective. Um, so it just shows you, like, players can get in the Hall of Fame for a lot of different ways. Maz was more of a defender than an offensive player, but he was good enough.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I was going through the list, um, you know, and it's like, okay, well, here's how they would rank, if you ranked them. And Clemente ranks pretty high. He really does. So it's like, yeah, it's, obviously Honus Wagner is number one.
Yes.
But, Clemente rates really high. And I think Clemente is top 20 all time in WAR. If you
wouldn't
rank,
surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
So I mean, he's, I read an article, I think in one of the old Beckett's, where they were trying to argue that from a pricing perspective, Clemente cards were too expensive compared to his all-time place in baseball. And I'm like, yeah, there's more. Like, to your point, like, he's got a story. It's not just not just that he was a great player. It's like there's a lot more to it.
He was a humanitarian.
He's a national hero.
Yeah.
he's a national hero.
Yeah.
It has he has a baseball award named after him for it. So it's like a little different. I think and he died, basically right at 3,000 hits. I mean, very eerie, like his whole career. And I think he has a myth, that and you look at how many players come up into the majors want to wear 21.
Yeah.
I think more people want to wear 21 than like Mickey Mantle's 7, or even Derek Jeter's 3. Especially players from the Dominican Republic.
Sure.
So it's just, it's interesting, like, how that translates into value. So
yeah, that's what I always say, that if I were to broaden my scope of collecting, and I would consider collecting Lefty Grove, because I put him right there with that. I mean, I just think if you look at his numbers, he was just dominant player.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, that's the thing, is like, there are players out there like Lefty Grove, and even if, like, I mean, I think the guy, I love Dizzy Dean.
Yeah.
But Dizzy got hurt.
Yeah.
and he's closer to Koufax than he is. Uh, um, but like Dizzy Dean cards are way more expensive than Lefty Grove.
Yeah,
Um, and they're in a lot of similar sets.
they
So
are.
it's
Yeah.
there's a lot of
It's
one-to-ones there.
same time period. Yep. Same era,
And
time period.
and I would say like, Dizzy has a story and Lefty Grove doesn't in terms of like Gas House Gang and all
Yep.
that, the myth, around Dizzy Dean. I think Dizzy also was a broadcaster for a lot of years too. So like he kind of after had a career after baseball that was a
Yeah.
lot more public than Lefty Grove. But
Yeah.
yeah, like it's just interesting because you're right. I mean, I think you would say pretty easily that Lefty Grove was a better pitcher from a total career than Dizzy Dean.
Yeah.
But Dizzy's cards are well more expensive. Like not just a little bit, but they're you know comparatively, he sells for probably 2x of what Lefty Grove sells for.
Yeah.
Like 33 Gaudis and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I have I think one I have a 33 um, root. Sorry, a 33 Dean. So
Yeah.
the one which my favorite Lefty Grove card is the Diamond Star.
Oh, well, yes, definitely. Yeah. Isn't he the number one card?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is. Well,
Yep.
number
That's a
one card
great
in the
card.
set,
Yeah.
and it's a good looking card.
Yeah. I
His Gaudi card, 34 Gaudi. The photo's a little like it's hard to tell who it is. It's like how some of those cards, the faces are very like generic looking, or
yeah.
they're not very well defined. But this one, it's a nice photo of him.
Yeah. I'm almost afraid. I would love to start picking up some Lefty Grove cards because I do find them very interesting.
Hmm.
And but I'm afraid to open that can of worms. You know how I am. I'm addictive.
Yeah, no, I know it's hard.
I don't want to broaden my collection to the point where I can't pick up what I want when I want it.
Yeah, no, I understand. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, and you're very focused. So I think that's a great trait to have as a collector is to be focused. For
Yeah.
me, I start collections and then kind of go back around to them over time. But I had been getting some of them done. You know, one of my goals this year is to get to my 100th unique Griffey refractor from the 90s, and I hit 97
Oh yeah.
this week.
Close. Yeah.
I'm 3 away from getting to 100. There's 124 total. So, but a lot of them are very low numbered and difficult to get. We talked about it on that video. So,
Yeah.
but the fact to get to 100, I think that would be a pretty good milestone for me. I'll probably celebrate that a little bit with a breakdown. But it's hard to believe like you can have a 100 unique cards from the 90s, all from tops Chrome and finest basically one player.
This goes to show you how popular a player he is. Still.
Yeah, and just how you know if you can collect in so many different ways. You know this that collecting for me is like there's cards in that collection worth $20 and cards worth 5,000.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not every card in that set's not expensive.
Yeah.
Which makes it fun to pick up. You can pick up a few cards here and there without breaking the bank. Um, and I think that helps keep you going when, because there's times when when a big card shows up and you just can't afford it or it goes way too high, and you're like, oh man, like really wish I was able to pick that up. But then you can pick up a few other cheaper
Yeah.
cards. Like, okay, I'm still moving my collection forward. I'm not just sitting on zero for the next 6 months and never pick anything up.
Yeah.
And I know it's tough. Because for you, I know like with Joe, Joe Wood, I know there's probably times when you feel like the drought's pretty big.
It is, and that's kind of the reason this year, just to keep occupied, I've done some more goals for some smaller items that
Yeah,
I think is achievable.
yeah. No, I love that T207 team set idea. I just think that's really cool. And
Yeah,
once you put it together, it's gonna look amazing. It's gonna be
yeah,
one of those really cool. Again, that's one of those things where if you could get it framed and hung up on your wall, it would look really cool.
Yeah. Now my daughter bought me a graded card binder, and
Oh
the
yeah.
so I'm gonna temporarily store it in there,
Hmm.
and that way I can just view it when I want to. But I really do like the idea, if and when I complete it, to have it professionally framed in inset and hanging on the wall. I
Yeah.
think that would be great.
Yeah, and I've seen people that have done that and they look great. And it's just I think the one caveat's going to be it's like you really need to take it to someone who will do it right. I think
Oh
taking it to
yeah,
Michael's is probably not the right
no, because you're gonna have.
strategy.
I would definitely put the right glass on it, so that
Hmm.
my I keep my den pretty dark. There's no natural sunlight in, and I have the right proper lights, but it still scares me.
Oh,
So
I know. I used to have a lot of my Griffey autos sitting out in a display as my backdrop, and then I do have one window in here, and I'm like, oh well, like this is not probably what I need to be doing. Is having these out, and exposed to sunlight or just light in general, um, because autos will fade, right? And
yeah,
but so I've tried to make a better decision on those kind of cards, but I hate not being able to display cards. It really sucks.
I do too. Yeah, that's why I don't. I have a safe at home, but I really only use it when I know I'm not going to be here.
Yeah.
I like to display my cards. I like to look at my cards, and if I put them, if I did the really really safe thing, I would put them in a
Mhm.
deposit box, at the bank. But then you can't see them. I can't enjoy them. I like coming in my
Yeah.
room, and looking at my cards when I want to look at them.
Yeah. I mean, and I've always had mine displayed behind me. Um, when I go on vacation, I do hide them. I do,
Yeah,
put them away. But um, I do feel like there is definitely this point where you almost have to kind of like, well, you know, at some point, do I need to start pitting some things back? And I know like it's that's that torn part. And I've seen people do all kinds of crazy things, take photos of them and hang photos up and all this other stuff, but it's not
yeah.
the same thing.
No, no, it's not.
It's not the same. And I feel like there's a lot of people who, you know, they do that, put them in the vault. When we were at the National, we saw that I forget the company had the graded card vault, basically the
Yes.
safe
Yeah,
for collectibles. And I thought that was kind of cool.
yeah. Was that yeah, I
It
don't
was
remember
it
who.
was a major company. It was I don't think it was Ultra Pro, but it was someone like that.
Yeah, yeah.
They had
Well, that's a big thing. That's a big thing now. I mean, eBay's in cahoots with, who is it?
PSA.
Yeah, and so now, you know, as soon as you buy something off eBay, it goes straight to the vault. You don't have to pay taxes on it, but it's a bummer. I mean, it's great for, investors
Hmm.
and, stuff, because, it's not part of their collection. It's just an
Yeah,
investment. They got a picture of it. It's sitting in a vault, and when it's time to sell, there's no transactions. It's easy. So I can understand it, but from a collector standpoint, I don't care for it.
yeah. I still have cards at the PWCC vault.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the way it works with PWCC, I believe if when you buy something, it goes directly to your vault, then you have to request shipment to get it sent to you.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And then that's when you get taxed on it.
yeah, and I've got to probably get those shipped to me because now Fanatics bought them, and
Right.
yeah, and now everything's different. So all right, Doug. Well, hey, I got to go. I got to be at work early in the morning. I got a test run for a new product, so It's gonna be early day for me.
Yep.
So good talking to you, and I'm very excited. You got me into the REA auction club, so I appreciate it.
Well, you got your feet wet and you got a little experience now, so it should take off from here.
Well, come March, if there's something cool in that March auction, I'm going to be excited. Maybe step up my game and get something a little bit more rare.
Right, right, yeah. And also we got Strongsville coming up in April, and
Yeah, and hopefully I'm in a position to be able to travel
yeah,
because in March I'm going to Chile, but and I got a Spain trip that's going to happen sometime between March and the end of and May. We haven't planned it yet, but
yeah,
hopefully I can go in and do Strongsville because I've never been and I really want to go.
right. Yeah, there was a video released tonight that I watched about Strongsville and the two promoters of the show, and
Hmm.
how that For Collectors is having Saturday night trade night sponsored. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it should be. And the thing is I'm kind of trading down, my 50s and 60s collection and 70s collection into more pre-war and 90s. So I have some really nice cards I can probably bring with me for trade or
Oh,
sell.
I definitely know you do.
So that'll be fun. Because again, I think it's some point you just kind of want to try something different. And I'm not, even though I love Ernie Banks, he's not like my core collecting person anymore.
Right, right.
So get my Johnny Benches and Ernie Banks cards and that kind of stuff. I actually have quite a few nice ones. Maybe it's time to move on.
Yeah, yeah.
So all right, man. Well, good talking to you, and I know that you know next time we'll come up with something cool to talk about. But I know you've been on some other channels, so you want to. I think you were on one tonight, weren't you?
I was, yes. I think it's going to be released on Sunday. So,
Good.
yeah. But yeah,
Well,
I've been having fun. Yeah, been having fun with that.
Doug's out there, man. He's making his presence known. So, but yeah, and hopefully I'll get this out there soon. And but hopefully you guys like what I picked up and Doug's picked up, and we're staying a little bit on point. I'm not I've strayed a little bit into some weird Nebraska Indian cards, but other than that, trying to stay on point for this year and keep collecting what I love. So, but good to see you, Doug, and
Yeah. Another nice
talk
time
to you
tonight.
soon. All right, man.
All
Talk to
right.
you
Take
soon.
care.
Bye.
Bye.